Okay, so let's check into our Thursday night items. In this case, our lecture is from Free Code Camp, one of my favorite sites, and Bo, one of my favorite creators. So in this case, you're going to use the existing folder we created in the first item this week. So no folder created, but you need to create a new file, and here's the name you want to give it. And remember, I'm very specific about names, all lower cases, no spaces. And in this case, it's a markdown file. Now, this is what we've already been doing, so I'm not going to show you. I'm just kind of previewing the information, and then use the video title. There's only one video this time, and here's the video title. You can also see that if you go to GitHub. And here are the commits. So you watch and take notes from the beginning, and again, take notes using bullets, okay? You can use, we learned now about ordered and unordered lists, so you could use those as well, whichever of those you wanted to. And then watch from the beginning until 419, and then commit. Here's your commit message. Okay, so then you pick it up at, should be 419, I'll fix that, to 841, and there's your commit message. So you can see as we're moving forward, I'm getting more specific about what I want those commit messages to be. Then you watch and take notes from 841 to the end of the video, and then commit with 841 to the end, and then you give me that URL for your commit history, right? So remember, this is actually, it's the same URL from what you used on Monday night's item, but because now it'll have these commits in it and the commits you did before. And then I gave you the breakdown of the grade. Okay, so that's what you need to do for that one. And then if you hit next here, so what we did on attendance is you learned how to use GitHub Pages, right? So if just a review, we have now a URL that we can now share with each other that renders a web page based on the files we create. So what I want to do in this exercise is just give you that basic setup of what you need to create a page, because remember, what we're seeing here is a markdown file. So we'll get back to that in a minute. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually walk you through a couple of steps here, and then we'll kind of take a cruise around this link, which I have up from MDN, the great resource, and in this case, looking at creating content, because we're just going to do a little bit, and again, I'll probably have you just kind of play around and create something that you think would be fun, okay? Now, so in my code space that we had already, okay, for our week 2 here, right, we're going to now, in addition to this file in our week 2, because we're still on week 2, we're playing around with our, in this case, our hands-on, I'm going to create a file. Now, this is important, as with all things, and this is why you see me emphasize the idea of lowercase no space, because index.html is one of the most important files you'll create when you're creating web pages. And when I hit enter here, then it creates the page, right? We've already seen the version control, hopefully getting used to looking at these colors, understanding this is untracked. But this file really is so important to be index.html, lowercase, and that way. Now you could actually also name it .htm. As you learn more about this field, you'll learn that there are times we use different extensions for what we would refer to as the main page for our website. And so in here now, we'll start looking at ways we write HTML, okay? And that's why I want to give you this link just over here. So let's actually kind of, now that we've created that file, you have that index file. Let's go over to the link I gave you here, right, and look around. So it talks about creating the content. We're going to style. So what is HTML? I've talked about it. It's a markup language, right? It has tags in it. It has beginning tags. It has ending tags, right? So we have the content itself, the element that it's around, right? And then these tags is what you're going to learn as you learn more and more web development, right? Nested elements, very common that you have, and the P is a paragraph tag, and then you have strong, meaning it makes it bold, right? So you just learn how to make these tags then work together, and then you learn how to write CSS to make things look good. And I showed you, did I show you the image tag? Maybe I didn't yet, but let's actually scroll down here to where it talks about your first, creating your first HTML document, right? And this talks about doing it inside folders, right? We're doing that. We're doing it inside a W2, and then creating that first page, that index, right? So in this case, we're just going to copy this, right? We're going to copy this. Now, there is a way inside of, and for those of you taking maybe one of my other classes, you will know this. There is a way, even though I have that copied, and I could just paste it, right? So, yeah. Let me scroll down. That was interesting. Oh, yeah. Actually, that must be. Notice what it's doing. Even though I pasted in 11 lines, it's actually freezing the top. Oh, that's cool. It's actually freezing it there. I haven't noticed this. Again, things are quickly changing. Sometimes you have to go, oh, what is that, right? What's that new thing I just saw? So by copying this in, here is the basic tag structure you would need for an HTML page, right? And you're going to learn more about this, especially as we move into next week, where we actually going to do some more coding HTML, which is cool and fun. And then if you're taking my CIT85, you get more of that because we just touch on it here in this class, right? So in this case, it's got a title. I'm going to show you how to look at that in a minute. And it's got an image, but we don't actually have an image at this level. So this is going to be a broken image, and I'm going to show you how to fix it. But I also want to show you, and you don't have to do this part, but I just want to show you that when you're working in VS Code, there's this built-in shortcut. And if you just hit explanation and tab, that actually will create that basic HTML structure for you, okay? So as well, but it's good to know, and we'll cover these in more detail later, but I'm going to undo because I like the one I got. Basically the same, right? So HTML, the beginning and opening, ending tag. So everything is nested inside. It's got the head. Inside the head, it's got meta. It's got the title. And this is really the only thing that's different. But I like this because we're going to use this anyway. Okay. So now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and create another file called style.css. Okay, and we're not really going to play with this file because more than anything, I just want you to, and you could totally play with this file if you wanted. Because what I want to do now is install an extension, okay? So this extension I'm going to install, I'm going to go down to extensions, and in this course I haven't done any, unless again you're taking 93, you may have already seen this. Search for live, and then just kind of wait because live server will show up. And what you're doing here is you're installing a little app that somebody built that gives us the ability to look at our code as a web page. I'm going to go ahead and install this. And you might wonder, well, why do we need this, Rio, right? And I'm going to go ahead and drop this. It is now in here, right? I could show the details, but it's just, and we're installing this in our code space, okay? I'm going to go ahead and drop out of this. I'm going to go ahead and drop out of this extension, right? I'm going to go back to my index file, and then I'm going to go back to my Explorer window, okay? And at the very bottom now, I see this go live. So I was talking about why do we need to look at this as a web page if we have this nice GitHub pages URL? And the answer is because this is what we've pushed to GitHub. And while we're coding, while we're developing websites, we want to be able to see that as we're developing and not until we push, because when we push, then anybody who's viewing our URL is going to see that. And maybe we want to look at our changes. This is a very common workflow in web development, is to write code and then modify, make it look the way you want it to, and then push that to, in this case, we're using GitHub. There could be other things you do that as well. But that's a very common workflow. So let's go down here, click go live, and then what will happen here is, and I'm going to make this bigger so you can see this. Oof, way too big, okay? So what happened here? And this is important to learn, by the way, it opened up a new tab. In this tab, I see my imaged folder, I see a W2, and I see the README, okay? So if I click here into the W2, then I'm going to see my test image, a broken image, and I see the content here, title. So what that is rendering is what this HTML is, okay? So there's the title, and now my test image, the alt here, is in there, but because the source is broken, and I'm going to show you how to fix this in a minute. But again, that's not what's showing up out here, right? This is still rendering the README file. Okay, let's go back over here and see what else we could do, because let's fix this one issue we had. So we have an image tag. That image tag is looking for it's got a source attribute. That source attribute is empty, right? And in this case, whatever we put here, and this is where you start to understand how to navigate images, how to navigate folders. So we do have an image. I do have a picture of myself here up in images, and you also have your print screen from before. So this is a good thing to learn. If I wanted the image to show, you might think I could just do this, right? Because that's the actual name. But if I come over to my live server, right, and I hit refresh, I don't actually see it. And if I got really, because I'm using all the skills we have introduced in this class, if I come over to DevTools, I can actually see, hey, it can't find that. And if I looked in the body, it's going to be like, oh, that is not there. And why is that the case is because the way I've given it the source reference, it would need to be in that same folder for this to work. So I need to be able to tell the attribute, hey, find this up in image. And up actually means something here, right? Because in this case, these folders are at the same level, but because I'm rendering this HTML from this folder, that is where it's going to look. And I want to say, hey, go up one to image. And so how would I do that? // And look what actually VS Code does for it. It says, hey, is this where you want to go? When I do that, I go image, and then I could go here. So the editor was actually helping me, okay? So I'm going to undo that, because it's really good to know // I either have to understand what this reference is, know what it is, or just let it help me. Okay? It's one of the things about autocomplete that can be both good and bad, because sometimes you don't break it down and understand why that's working. It says, hey, since you're rendering out of the W2 folder, then I want you to pull the image out of a folder at your same level. So go up one level, okay, from where you're at, // imj, look at the imj folder and look in there for that. Now, if I did this, the hope would be this would work, right? And it does. Cool. It does show my image, right? All right, so here's what I want you to do. Now that I've given you that, and by the way, right, you'll end up versioning control this, but let's just finish this, right? All right, so now we've looked at this web page. So look around here, play around with some more things. Again, kind of the idea of what I did with the markdown. So in here, right, and it talks about, this is really good, actually. I would say I'd recommend looking at this, right, about what each of these tags mean. What does the doc type mean? What is the HTML, the head, the meta, right? This is kind of a little preview of what we're going to be looking at next week. And then if you want, you could also, little challenge here is to actually go and then do some CSS, right? So if you had some text on there, so play around. So I guess what I will do here, actually, let me show you that, because that's probably, so now that I have my CSS here, right? Then I want to link, LINK, right? link. And what it does is when I hit LINK, hit tab. Let me do that again. When I hit link and I hit tab, oh, sorry, link LINK, and then it brings up the IMIT abbreviation. That's what created that before. I hit enter, and then it does link. Relation is a style sheet, and then it asks me for a reference. And this is the same equivalent here of SRC, right? For the image now where it's saying instead of SRC, it's a ref, meaning the reference. I know it's, why isn't it the same, right? But still it isn't. So I'm going to do style. And again, it's showing, hey, you want to link the style sheet, right? So in the style sheet, matter of fact, before I do this, let's just say P tab, right? Hello world there, right? So that's a P tag. And so over here we could do P, right? And now we're actually starting to write CSS, okay? And we say, hey, wherever you see a P. Now I didn't even show you the color of the P tag, meaning the paragraph tab before, right? But now when we come in here and we go to our output and we hit refresh, oh, what did I forget? Might just be taking it a minute to show. Oh, there it is. I didn't scroll down far enough. I'm like, where to go, right? Okay, so there's that. So again, play around with some CSS, play around with adding some content. And here's what I want, right? So play around and give us your new URL. Now, I'm actually going to do this because this part was something I played around with. I'm going to do get. So again, I'm going to have you play a little bit here, right? Add star, get commit -m, right? And I'm going to give you one. You can have multiple commits here if you want, but at least one I want to see is building my first page, okay? Now, get push. So what happens here, and this is where we'll end and I'll let you go play at this point, is remember, this is live server, right? But now what we've done is we've pushed that code from there to actual GitHub. So I can drop my live server because assuming at this point you're going to be making those changes, doing some simple CSS. We didn't even do any JS because that would just take more time at this point. But now over at my URL, because I now have an index file, I'm going to hit refresh. And now, instead of rendering that README file, it's going to render the index because the index has a higher priority. And that's kind of what I wanted to show you. Okay, so play around with this. I will have written out more detail of what I want you to do. And then in your reply, in addition to giving us your URL, right? So here, right? Here we go, right? For that, again, make sure it's a link here. Then tell us, discuss a website you think you might want to build and why. Why might you want to build it? What kind of site would it be and why do you want to build it? And play around. And again, check back here. I'll have a little more detail. Okay, so I'm not going to post that, but I'm going to show you the last item for this week. Which is discussing HTTPS, right? So we learned about HTTP and that conversation that happens, and now and the different versions of it that's happened over time. So in this case, right, I want you to watch this video. It's pretty short. And then I want you to do some additional research regarding a topic to do here. Again, each student needs to select a different one. And here's the key, right? Write words about your selected topic in your own words, right? So make it in a way when I read this, I will know it's not ChatGPT. Matter of fact, if you may see me reply, this sounds like chat, make it sound like you because I want it to be you. I want it to be your understanding because these are technical topics that you want to start understanding. So by the way, it's okay to use ChatGPT to understand what those things are at a different level because all you're doing is getting introduced to them here. Okay, select a unique topic, write in your understanding, provide links to research. If you use ChatGPT, give us what you researched. Do 2 substantive replies, right? And then Oh, this one should be out of here. That one was gone. So left over from before. Okay, that's your Thursday night items. See you later.